VR. It's sort of like a hate-fuck relationship. Now I, like many other people, support VR, but it's kind of hard to be invested in VR when the company behind it, and the multiple companies that would support it but later leave, do not fully commit to making games for it. This was more of an issue when it came to the launch of the Oculus Rift. In the horrible year that was 2016, it was just a really weird spot that VR was in. Sure, VR was ready for the consumer now, but really was it for the consumer? There's a reason of why back then there were several videos that had millions upon millions of views that were based in VR. It's because no one could afford the damn thing. With a mixture of a lack of games and definitely high specs to even run the damn games. At the time, it wasn't really an appealing option to want to get a VR headset. A lot of the games were just one and dones and tech demos and not really games that can stand on their own. One of those games stood out from the rest. It was an actual full dedicated game that was a conversion of a really popular game. Yes, I'm talking about Superhot VR. When I first got my true proper VR headset, which was the original Oculus Quest, there were two games that I could choose. It was Beat Saber and Superhot VR. Now, I can already tell you which one I played more. It's the obvious Beat Saber. I mean, if you get a VR headset, it's a must buy, I'm just saying. What stuck with me was Superhot VR. So when I went back to the game, which is 5 years later, holy shit, time does not slow for anyone, I was both impressed with how it holds up, but also kind of let down because a lot of people hype this up as one of the best VR games. I'm pretty sure everybody knows the concept of Superhot VR, but if you don't, let me fill you in. It's a game where time moves when you move. If you move, the bullets move. If you move, the enemies move, etc. and etc. The gameplay loop and just the gameplay in general is so original for its time and even still now that you kind of have to respect it for it. How you can time out your attacks based on the timing of how people are moving towards you or moving away. It almost adds this strategic nature to the game where you gotta play your cards right in order to actually progress throughout the levels. The graphics, oh boy, on the computer, I think I'm about a 10 right now. So simple, yet so appealing to look at. Has this sort of simplistic cubism style that I'm just a fucking sucker for. It may be extremely simplistic, but you will remember this game by how just stunning it is, but from a simple level. There's a good amount of separate modes that you can play. When I do just headshots, go for it. The reaction times to be quicker, they have that as well. If you, for some reason, want to complete the whole entire game just using fisticuffs because you're a fucking madman, go for it. You want to see how far you can survive? There's also an option for that. For a game that came out in 2017 and was one of the first actual big budgeted VR releases, it's a pretty fun time. If you just step back a little bit and just look at Superhot VR as it is in comparison to the original game, there's one undeniable flaw to it. It lacks a lot of content and features that are missing from the original game. The original storyline for the game was that you're just some kid or some guy just on their DOS computer where their friend recommends this elite copy of a new game called Superhot. Start playing it more and more and it gets to a point where your friend actually becomes worried about you, and then you slowly just start blocking off your friend. Then eventually you have to kill yourself in real life to commit to this game that is trying to corrupt you and trying to make you all powerful. Sounds like a good plot, right? Well, in Superhot VR, they kind of just butcher it and try to rush it as much as they can. Just, you get a disc, you put it in, they corrupt you, kill yourself, and then you become one. But everything just feels kind of rushed and undeserved, and by the end of it, you're just like, oh, that's it? That kind of fucking sucks. I'm not saying that the original game has this 10 out of 10 Oscar bait fucking storyline, but I'm just saying that the story that was there was interesting, and it's just a shame that they kind of butchered it and half-assed it in the final release of Superhot VR. It's also missing the DLC that was released for the original game, which I haven't played personally, but I heard good things about it. They care so much they keep on porting this game to newer VR headsets. Why not just make some additional new content for it? I mean, the content that's already here is lacking, so why not just add more while you're at it? This is the biggest complaint that I have for the game. Take a guess of how long it took me to finish this game. Now, I'll give you a minute. Oh, did you guess that was an hour and 24 minutes? Because it's an hour and 24 minutes. What the fuck?
Now, I know that I just said that this was one of the games that actually provided more content than just a few hours, but I'm technically including the extra content as well. If we're just mentioning the main storyline, it's an hour and 24 minutes. That is fucking pitiful. I didn't mind the original for having an extremely short time, because here's the difference. In Superhot VR, you can't fucking move. So you just have this fixed experience that you can't really experiment with. Regular version, you can freely just walk around and just bash the shit out of people. At least there's variation there. But with this game, it sort of takes it away from the player and makes you just be at a set amount of locations. Like it's an action piece or something. Yet again, I completely understand why they did this. There wasn't really a lot of games that were making you sort of walk around the place because a lot of people thought that that would give most people motion sickness, and just not a lot of VR games were doing that. So I completely agree with their choice to do this. Just that revisiting it after having a shit ton of other VR experiences, it feels kind of dated with their decision to do that, unfortunately. I feel like there could be a way for them to update this game to modern standards by adding more momentum and more levels to accompany that new movement system that they would implement. I'll always have a soft spot for this game personally. It was my first VR experience. This game made me find YouTubers that I think without it, I wouldn't even find. And it made me gain just more respect for VR in general. This is by no means a bad game. It is actually a really good game, and I feel like that anyone who plays VR should at least give it a chance. Just maybe at a discount. If you're going into this game expecting a fucking 10-hour game, it's not really going to be your cup of tea. But if you're looking for an experience that will definitely stick with you, then I would recommend it. Just keep in mind the limitations that the game has in comparison to the original. Very short time to actually complete the game and do side content. And also, don't really compare it to modern standards of VR because I just think that that's just completely unfair. It's slightly a product of its time, but there's nothing wrong with that because it's still a good overall game. I'll give this game like a 7 out of 10. It's an extremely fun game, but I do have to admit, it is short for what it is. And I was just expecting a little bit more after all these years of not revisiting it. If you have a VR headset, I would recommend picking this up for a discount. On Steam VR, it frequently goes for around $7 to $10, and I think that's a pretty good steal. Anyway, subscribe if you want to, like if you want to, even comment if you want to. I don't care, you do you, and have a good day. You know, during the recording and editing of this video, I got COVID. I actually lost my sense of taste for a little bit. The person that loves tasting food, oh my god, that was like an absolute nightmare for me. Imagine your favorite dishes and then just not being able to taste them. Like, it's awful. What I'm trying to say is, value your taste. I don't know why I'm ending this at the end of the video.